And I love beautiful mistakes. I love it when the dogs start barking. I love it if I'm walking and I trip. I love it like when there's just real,
Sure.
I don't want anything to ever feel like it has to be perfect. I just want it to be relatable.
¿Quién es ese hombre holding up the bottle? Look a little closer, cigar and Moscato. An actor in improv coming from Chicago. Outdoor, make way for Paul Vato.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to Paul Vato Presents, where my guest is Amber Wegner.
So
Amber
good to
Wegner. I'm waking up with the Wegner. No, there's a couple here in Las Vegas waking up with the Wagners. Sorry. They're the Wagners. And they're a couple who does the news, and I think they have for many years in Las Vegas. So
I love it.
welcome.
Thank you. It's so funny. The last time I saw you, you were full beard. You'd had long hair. It's been a minute since I've seen you. This is, post quarantine now.
This is, I had to do this if I want to work a little bit more,
I
But
love the look on you, though. You wore it well.
oh, thank you. Thank you. For those of you that don't know, I had long hair, full beard, and I saw myself because I did an episode. We filmed it last year, an episode of To Tell the Truth, a game show. And I saw myself and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I was like a caveman. It was crazy. But you also had long hair. I think maybe the
Did
last
I not have short hair the last time I saw you?
I feel like, I mean, I don't know, because I see you online and I saw that your hair was short.
Right.
I feel like when I saw you last, you had long hair. Maybe when you helped me with an audition, or if I read
That's very
for something.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, because time is just one big chunk for me. Like, it's all just like one compressed moment.
it really, really is. But thank you so much for taking time to do my podcast.
Thank you for having me. And so sorry about the hiccup in the beginning. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I think that might have messed up something. So I'm leaving it on, and if a call comes in, I'll just decline it, and hopefully it doesn't, trip us up.
Yeah, it should. Like, I just had an Instagram thing. Wendy McClendon, no. Oh, Vocal Media mentioned you. I was like, no, not Wendy. Okay, why would Wendy McClendon Covey, my famous friend, mentioned me? No, she didn't. It was somebody else.
No.
It's, but so yeah, welcome to Fireside. This is such an amazing platform to be able to record my podcast, and there are still hiccups. So that's good to know. If you have it on Do Not Disturb, that's what was happening. You weren't getting my notifications. Like, here we are. But you know what? The nice thing is it's recorded here live, but then it lives on the platform, so people can always come back and listen to it. And then what I do is I download it and then re-upload it as a podcast. So yeah, I mean, it's I think it's just such a great way to be able to record our podcast this way.
Yeah. Well, and it very much, like with all the claps and like the look of it reminds me of Clubhouse a little bit in the tone of some of the functionality, which was super fun. As I was watching your podcast, I would just kind of scroll through and check it out. And I was like, well, this is an interesting platform.
Yeah, it's great. Fallon Fatemi is the founder, and then Mark Cuban is one of the main investors, and they're combining it. They just signed a deal with a company called Scale Networks, so that we can monetize this, or so it can be almost like an NFT. You can, you own the IP, but yet you're able to, people can invest in your programs, and you can develop shows and programs. And they already have one major show called Ramble On with Doug Ellen, I believe is his name. He's the creator of Entourage. So it's with Kevin Conley and Charlie Sheen and who else? God, Kevin Dillon, I think is his name.
Okay.
They're doing a show where people that are owners or investors can kind of even direct the direction of the show. So
Yeah.
there's some exciting stuff going on. So we'd love to have you.
I love it.
Yeah. If this is something that you want to do, because I know that you do a podcast as well. Are you still?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a podcast called Actors Inspiration, and I started it last year. I am on episode 265 as of today, because it's an almost daily podcast. And so once a week or twice a week, I'll have interviews, and the rest of the time, I just give little daily bursts of inspiration. And it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
And they really are daily bursts of inspiration, or bursts of inspiration. A lot of times I'll just tune into them just because I think we as actors really need that. So thank you for doing that. I mean, it's great to have somewhere that you can go for inspiration, and then the people that you have on there are also very inspirational. So thank you for making that podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. I feel like there's plenty of people in this world that tell us why we shouldn't be artists and why it can't work and why it won't work. And that's just not my platform. I'm there to tell you why you can and to keep going.
That's amazing. What's the name of the podcast so that people can look for
Actors Inspiration.
Actors Inspiration? So folks, please, and I don't think it's not just for actors. I think anyone can get inspiration from it. So definitely look it up and follow it and and do all that. I've realized the importance of asking people to do that for our podcast. Same with Paul Vato Presents, and especially for me being the first 8 weeks of season 2. It's
Yeah.
important to ask people to go and follow it and hit like. And reviews are almost impossible to get, but if you do give a review, it means a lot. It means a lot to the algorithm, to either Apple Podcast or Spotify. Those seem to be the main ones.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you ask for reviews and follows and things like that, or do you just kind of like let it happen organically?
Yeah, I have a couple times. I honestly, it just slips my mind. Like I'll think about, oh, I need to, remember to, ask for likes or shares or a review. But I just honestly, I get so in the zone because it's all just like stream of consciousness. So I don't have like anything written or anything, and so half the time I just forget to ask. But yeah, it's great. And it's a lot of fun because one of my favorite podcasts that I talk about on the podcast all the time is Awards Chatter from The Hollywood Reporter. And it is a fantastic podcast. And recently I went to go listen to it and my podcast was right next to it. And I about flipped my lid. I was like, oh, I've made it.
Did you screenshot it and
you bet, and reposted it and saved it because I was like, oh, I'm with my favorite.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Well, I hope to one day also start reaching that level. So you've been featured before, right? Is that kind of what that is?
Well, I've never been featured on Awards Chatter podcast, but I don't know if it's because I talk about it so often that somehow it's getting in there. And I didn't do it for that. I truly love the podcast. They do interviews all year long, but when different award seasons are coming up, they talk to directors, writers, showrunners, like all different kinds of people in the industry that are up for something, or their film is up for something, or their music. And it's just, that's the stuff I love. I just love it so much. It keeps me company all day. And they're on like episode 400. I started at the beginning and I'm on like 250 or something. Like I've listened to every episode.
That's amazing. And I like that how long are your podcasts? I mean, because they're not.
Yeah. They vary. Like my daily bursts are 5 to 10 minutes. They're not super long. But then my interviews, I try to keep to about 30 minutes. Some of them have gone to 45. So I try to be respectful of people's time, although for me, the longer the better an episode, because I can be driving, doing my laundry, doing whatever and just have it in the background. But yeah, the daily ones are 5 to 10 minutes and then the interviews are about 30.
Wonderful. I'm trying to figure out, that sweet spot. And I just seem, I'll go really, I think, until it's organically over. So I've had podcasts as short as an hour to like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't pulled a Joe Rogan where all of a sudden it's 3.5, 4 hours. I'm sure I could, but I'm just trying to figure out. And I even asked someone, well, is 2 hours too long? Should I split it up? And they kind of said what you said. It was like, no, it's great because if you're doing something like a road trip or you're going to be in the car, no, just he goes, no, keep it, don't break it up. So I'm kind of learning myself. So it's great to hear your input and your feedback and all that.
Yeah. It's like, what's organic? Whatever's organic. If it's flowing, trust me, if it's flowing for you, it's flowing for us. So, when it's gonna, like you said, when it's done, it's like, okay, well, thank you. It's been great. And that's fine too, Well,
Amber, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul Vato. It's been wonderful.
I wanted to have you come on so I could talk about my podcast. So thank you. Mission accomplished.
I love it.
That does remind me of my other podcast called the Super Secret Celebrity Show, which that's exactly what I do. And it came about because it was a 2 minute podcast competition. So they had to be from 1 to 2 minutes. It was for Rode, the microphone company from Australia, and Anchor, which is owned by Spotify. And that's actually what I use to upload. And now they've gone to video. But last year, for the past couple of years, but I just found out about it last minute last year, they had this competition, but that's actually what motivated me to start, getting back into my podcasting journey, not as a producer, but actually, doing it like this and interviewing
Yeah.
people. So I call it the Super Secret Celebrity Show, where I basically bring on celebrities and I talk about myself for about a minute and 15, a minute and 20 seconds. Then we ask them, I make them introduce themselves. So it's awkward and, because they're used to being introduced and whatnot. And then when they get to the good part, that's when I cut them off and go, sorry, that's all the time we have. So,
That's hilarious. Have you had any negative response to that from the guests, or are they aware that this is the format?
they're aware that it's the format, but then, and it's funny how they decide to handle it. My buddy Joe Stapleton was like, "Yeah, well, that seems about right. That's the way my career is going," or something to that effect. I've had other people scream at me, not scream, but get
Right.
really mad, like Noel G, who was Hector in Fast and the Furious. With him, I had a little fun. I added some sound effects as if he jumped in a car and he ran out the door, jumped in a car screeching. I'm like, oh, he left very fast and very furious. So
That's
just stuff like that. And then others are like, I'm never doing this again. But they all know, they're in on the joke. And then it's kind of interesting to see how they each kind of would handle it. Naomi Grossman, who was Pepper on American Horror Story, she was like, she loved it. She loved the idea. She hasn't done it yet because she said, but she's actually done this interview, Paul Vato Presents. She already did that. And but the Super Secret Celebrity Show, she said, sometimes she'll get invited to go on a podcast and she's, in the location, she's there for 2 hours and that's all they do. They talk about themselves and then they never really get a chance to talk about, but you've wasted 3 or 4 hours of your day. Where me, it's only, I ask for 5 minutes. That's all I do for Super Secret Celebrity Show.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really, speaking of sound effects, we may get some here because my mailman is due to come at any time, and you will hear my dogs go berserk when the mailman arrives. So just so you know, if you hear loud barking, no one's dying.
Okay. But we'll keep an eye on you. The nice thing is, speaking of sound effects, and I don't know if you've already noticed this or if you've been in other fireside shows, there are sound effects. So please, folks, if you're here, let's give Amber a round of applause. And thank you so much for being here. But yeah, there are applause, there are laughs, things like that, so that you can get, feedback from the audience. And a lot of times, of course, people are just kind of hanging out because I know that we're also simulcasting to YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. So I know people are wondering, like, wait, what's going on over there? What's a live show? And we're on camera. So if you guys want to join us, DM me and I can send you a link to Fireside. But yeah, there's sound effects here. Yesterday's
I've heard the claps, I've heard the cheers, I've heard, it's super fun. And that's what I think it's an interesting, really fun idea for a platform.
It's fun. And it's just like you said, kind of like Clubhouse, but with video, and it's recorded automatically and then you can download it. And if you're with Libsyn, I believe, or any, if they can also set it up as a podcast. So you can literally just go, I don't know, print, is that the right word, to podcast, and it'll send it right out to Libsyn or one of their podcasting platforms. So it's pretty exciting. So I'm glad that
it's fun to do the idea of the video podcast as well. And I know Anchor does offer that now. I've opted not to do it yet, but I was a guest on another podcast yesterday that was done. They did theirs via Zoom and then they upload it, onto Anchor. And for me, I love just being in my jammies recording my podcast. And I always tell my guests, I'm like, best part is no hair and makeup needed. Just be in your PJs and let's have a chat.
There is something so wonderful and freeing about that is amazing. But now for me, the theory is if Anchor's offering this new thing, that they're really going to push it. So they're going to push their video podcasts before they push I would imagine the regular audio podcast, just because it's a new feature and they want people to use it and they want it to be promoted. So I was like, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the being able to see each other, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It is nice. So here we
Where
are.
where do you upload your podcast? Who do you use as your podcast?
Anchor. I do everything through Anchor. Yeah, and it's all like it's so easy because I do so little. It's not editing. Like I don't edit. I don't have to edit anything. Like it's just literally I record it. I just listen back to make sure like there's nothing funky, and it's out 10 minutes after I record it. Like it's just boom.
That's
So
what amazed me, and you were very inspirational because I remember asking you, maybe a year ago when I was trying to
yeah,
start my about because that's what's always gotten me is the editing. And I have a couple that I recorded last year that I never got around, and I feel bad because if someone's invested their time, you at least want to give them something back. So I still have them, and then my old laptop went down, so I don't even know if I have access to them. I got to pull the
yeah,
archive out of there. But I remember talking to you. You're like, no, I don't edit it. I just do it and put it out there, and that's great. I think people now are, I don't want to say if they're more forgiving or they're just used to it, that it's live and there might be some glitches, but you know,
yeah.
why
You just
not?
roll with it. And I love beautiful mistakes. I love it when the dogs start barking. I love it if I'm walking and I trip. I love it like when there's just real,
Yeah.
I don't want anything to ever feel like it has to be perfect. I just want it to be relatable.
Amazing, wonderful. Well, yeah, yesterday, day before, I interviewed Magical Katrina, who's
Hmm.
a magician and illusionist and mentalist, very talented young lady. And right in the middle, the plumber came because something had happened. She had stopped up her bath or toilet or whatever, and the landlord sent them, but without like telling her exactly when. All of a sudden, there's this knock, and it's the plumber, and we spoke to him in Spanish and whatnot, and it was fun. It was fine. It was so if the
I
post,
love it.
so be it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's the funny stuff. People won't remember half the conversation you had, but they'll go, "Remember when the plumber jumped in?" Like they remember that. So that's
Yeah.
what I always remember. I'm like, you're not going to remember my half my conversations, but if I do something really out of this, out of expectation, then that's what you remember.
Well, and you know what? That's also kind of life and talking to people. And there's this saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, which is people may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And
Yep.
I think that that's something that we as actors are well aware of. They might not remember everything that we've said, but man, this person made me feel so good, whether it's an interview like this or you're
Yeah.
acting on screen or stage. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I like that saying.
Yeah, it's a good one. I feel like that's like an Oprah one. If I could be mistaken, but somehow Oprah came to mind when you said that.
It could be. I know it was somebody way smarter and more insightful than me said it first, but yeah, we'll have to look it up and see who did say that.
Yeah, fact check it.
So, Amber, thank you so much for taking time, to be here and to do this. And uh, let's maybe just do a little bit of a dive in a segment I like to call shallow dive.
Great.
We can talk a little bit about your career and how where you grew up, and is your family involved in the arts at all? Where you grew up, and then how you ended up in LA and Hollywood, and then I know that you had a brief hiatus because I feel
Yeah.
like you and I were both kind of getting back into it after like a 9 or 10 year hiatus. So that
Yeah.
was something we connected on when we first met on Clubhouse. So
Yeah.
yeah, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Sacramento, so in Northern California, and I went to a visual and performing arts high school where I studied dance, but always peeked my head around the curtain at the theater people, going, "That looks like a fun world," but never jumped into the theater world. But I did end up working at a theater while I was in high school. Timothy Busfield has a theater called the B Street Theater, and it's a theater in the round, and he would bring in amazing actors to do theater there. So I got an opportunity to watch that, and that was really great. And then I did dinner theater and silly things like that. But then I got into after school. I got into hospitality management, and so my career went that direction. And when I was 26, 27 years old, I had been working pretty hard and climbing some ladders and making decent money. But I was working my ass off in a job that I wasn't loving, and I thought, okay, I'm not married, I don't have kids. What does it look like to like figure out what else there is in this world? And so I took my savings and I moved to Hawaii and I read The Artist's Way. And then after reading that book, I said, I need to go to LA and figure out if I can be an actor. And was humbled because at 27, 28 years old, there's people that have been doing this a lot longer than I had. I knew nothing. I had no connections. There's an interesting connection I do have. My cousin, who I say cousin very loosely, my mom's best friend's niece, was married to Robert Downey Jr. back in the day when he was not doing so well. That was the era. In fact, I was at her baby shower. I was at their baby shower when they had their son Indio, before they had their son. But I don't know him, well enough to be like, hey, I've moved to LA and meet me. But it's a fun connection, it's definitely a fun connection to know. And my kids grew up with Danny Trejo, so, that's fun. But again, I needed to educate myself, so after 3 years of pounding the pavement very blindly, not knowing a whole lot about the industry, especially Los Angeles, I went back to work and went back to the hospitality industry and was there for like 7 years. But while I was there, I was taking classes at night. I was, working really hard and studying at night and saving money so that when I did go back to acting again at 36, 37, I had some money saved and I set myself up for success because I had made some connections and did it a different way the second time around. So, joined the union in 2014 and then the rest was, I went off running and it's been ups and downs and all arounds, but I've had some really great successes and some really long lulls. It's not like, when I was in the hospitality industry, there was a ladder to climb and that's not necessarily how it goes in the arts. It's not linear. So it's been very side to side to side to side, up and down and all around.
Amazing. What
Yeah.
what a story. But you're right. I think that people need to know that if you can set yourself up for success, you're going to have an easier road. It's never going to be easy, and especially if you come to this industry with no connections, it's not going to be easy. But I feel that by you setting yourself up for success, it definitely took the edge off. And it's tough, to be a starving actor. You don't want to be a starving actor. You want to have something, and you had financially you were okay, so that you
Yeah.
could ride out those lulls because it's
Yeah.
not an easy thing. Sometimes you'll go months without work and then all of a sudden you have a lot of work and it's not like, oh, there's a lot of work now. I'm going to take these 3 jobs. No, usually you take one job and that's it, so
Yeah. Yeah.
strategic.
Yeah. And so, it's the land of illusion, right? And so I think there's this illusion that if you're, working a couple times a year that you must be working all the time and that's lovely, but the truth is there is gaps in between jobs until you get to this point where you're at the 1% of people that are working on the regular. So yeah, having a side gig or another job or another way of generating income is always suggested so that you can be a working actor that's not, like you said, the struggling actor, because that's not fun. It's just it kind of it suffocates the art.
It does. It certainly does. And I heard somewhere or read somewhere, maybe Oprah said it. It's as far as acting goes, it is one of the highest paid professions. But that's to the 1%. You mentioned 1%, and that 1% is very well uh, paid, and they make a lot of money. They're compensated very well, but it's also one of the least paid jobs.
Yeah.
Because everybody else isn't doing that. You do have to have other jobs to survive. So,
Yeah.
keep that in mind, and not to ever dissuade anyone from doing this, but it's not as easy as, sometimes we make it seem. And then, it's all acting, same thing, we make it seem easy, but there's been all this training. People don't see the 20 years of training and
Yes. Yes.
improv and classes and scene studies and auditioning. You can be a great actor at auditioning, but then not be able to deliver, or vice versa. You're like, oh, he's such a good
Yep.
actor. Why doesn't he get work? Well, because he doesn't audition very well.
Yep. I know there's so much that goes into it. There's so much to go into it. When people say if there's anything else that you love more than this, do that. Like I would always go, that's a terrible thing to say. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's kind of true.
True. Yeah. 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 No, you have to almost not be able to live without it. That we have to do, and I think that's most of us. Somebody else said it's because there's something wrong with us mentally. So I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, it's just, it's like we have so much to say, right? We have so much that we want to create and share in this world. And there's a way. I always say, like, I talked on the podcast yesterday that Monday is my favorite day of the week because I have no idea what's going to come in this week. I have no idea what I'm going to book. I have no idea what auditions I'm going to get. I have no idea who's going to call this week. And Mondays, for me, I'm like, I have no clue what's going to happen this week, but I know something. I guarantee something cool is happening this week. Don't know what, don't know how much, but I've yet to have a week where nothing cool happened.
And if that were the case, you would make something cool happen. Like,
Totally.
you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
I know that you've also produced your own, is it film or films?
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you're talking about creating, I mean, we also make our own way sometimes. And I think that right now we're living in this time where right here, right on in our pocket is the studios, everything that you need to film something, to record it, to get it out there, put it up on YouTube, maybe get it seen, and
Yeah.
get work from it.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And that was, what the main reason why I joined the production company that I did in 2016 was I knew I was coming in later in the game, and with people with a lot more credits than I had. And so if I didn't create my own credits in my mind, I thought I'm going to be standing in line behind a lot of people that have a lot more experience and recognition than I do. And so, yeah, we did a lot of short films, music videos, feature film. Yeah, it was, we worked a lot in a few years. So I'm glad that I did that because it also gave me the respect for all aspects of the work that needs to be done, from the camera people to the lighting to the gaffers, the craft services. Everybody plays a role in the art, and the actor is not the most important person in the room. They're one chess piece on the board. And so I was really glad to get that experience.
I think that's one of the most important things, and something that I try to drive home to actors. And maybe because also of my business background, where I could be anything from the janitor to the clerk to the person stocking, and I've done all that, starting off in the ice cream business back in the 1900s in the Chicagoland area, and and then going to the cigar business. It's you try to learn all aspects of the business so that you can also have a little bit of compassion for other people, learn about
Yeah.
lighting, learn about wardrobe, learn about hair and makeup, so that it's not like, oh, I'm the star and this revolves around me. No, it's a team. It's definitely a team effort, and there's nothing like being on set where everything is just clipping along and flowing, and you just have to worry about yourself. You bring it. You let the art department worry about their thing. But everyone's doing a great job,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we should, it's that old adage of walking in others' shoes, but learning a little bit about all aspects of the filmmaking industry and all
Yeah.
that. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful
And
that
how valuable each person is, and how the bus doesn't roll missing a wheel. It's like we all got to work together.
that's it. That's it, 100%. Um, were you finding yourself working with the same crew, or did that also kind of evolve? And then are you still producing shorts or features, or what kind of
Yeah.
are you
So the company that I joined was Magic Arrow Films, and at the time, Richie Greer, who is the CEO of the company, is a writer director, and he had a bunch of scripts that he had written when he moved out here from North Carolina that he was wanting to get made. I was an actor that was wanting to work, so I was like, okay, you've got scripts. I have some connections, like let's see what we can do to make these work. And so we started with some short films, and then we moved on to features, and I produced one feature length film. And then when I left the production company, we were in pre-production for the second feature. The first one was called Underdog. And it's about a female fighter that overcomes her addiction through MMA. And that's available on Amazon. And then Weekend Warriors is also available on Amazon. And as I said, we were in pre-production for that. And at the same time we were in pre-production for that, my producing was taking up the majority of my time, and I was no longer doing the acting, and I lost my SAG health insurance. And that was kind of like a moment of clarity, going, I came here to act. I've learned a lot in producing. I've built some credits. I built some great relationships, but I need to get back to what I came here to do. And that health insurance is everything. It's so affordable compared to regular health insurance. So I said, I need to get back to the grind, as an actor. And he was, bless him, he still had me as an actor in the film. And then his next film, The Legend of Cat Claws Mountain, we just shot that. That's in post-production, and I'm in that. So yes, he tends to work with a lot of the same people, actors included. Like there's probably 4 or 5 actors that have been in all 3 movies, because he likes to work with great people. He likes to work with people that are helpful, that are, come prepared. They're good to work with. They understand that the conditions sometimes are like hot and sweaty and crazy, and the it's not like we have big trailers. They're smaller budgeted films, so it's like everybody's got to be a team player and with a great attitude. And because of that, they've had multiple feature films, and so that was kind of my journey with the producing. So now, to answer your question, I'm producing my podcast, which I have, but I'm focusing more on being actor for hire as opposed to producing content at this point, other than my podcast.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But if for some reason a gig doesn't come, that you can do it on your own, as far as putting together a project and managing a project and producing a project. So that's great. But you're right. We can't lose focus of what we're here to do and what we love to do, which is ultimately, the acting, because the other stuff is work. I mean, it's we're not going to kid ourselves. It's a lot of work. Producer had and having. And especially on smaller budgets, because you're doing everything. You're not just
everything.
You can't delegate because it's
yep. Yep. There were times in some of the shorts that I was doing sound, I was doing the slate, I was doing the script supervising, making sure we had craft services. It was like everything. But you know what? That's what you do when you're a small production company and you're getting started, and it's just, that's paying your dues, paying the dues.
That's it. Now, something that I've been meaning to ask some of my guests, and maybe I haven't really, is what would you suggest for me? Somebody that took 10 years off, did a few projects while I was in Vegas. Like I did a movie with Nicolas Cage and Elijah Wood called The Trust. Had a small part in it, and then got chopped even smaller, but I was still in it.
Sure.
But what would you give somebody, either that's, I guess, am I in the same boat as somebody that's just starting, or would there be different advice for someone like me that's getting back into it after a 10-year hiatus?
My big thing is, right before I left the industry, I just started doing casting director workshops, and then the casting director workshops got sent to hell and, shamed and all kinds of stuff. When I came back to the industry and they were starting to open up again, that has been a godsend as far as my opportunities. I have met a lot of casting directors, and I have been called in by these casting directors multiple times. And it's not right after the workshop, but I have put a bug in their ear as far as the fact that I exist. And I follow up with, quarterly. I usually follow up with emails just saying, hey, I saw you back in January. I just wanted to say hi, let you know, I've worked on this, and this. And if I can be of service to any of your projects, let me know. Hope you're well, and keep it very short and sweet and to the point. But I always look at it as I want to be of service to whatever it is I'm doing. Before I came onto this podcast, how can I be of service to Paul's podcast? How can I assist him in what he's doing? I feel like doing casting director workshops allowed me to build relationships again that I would not have had the opportunity to do without them. And my manager and agent are super stoked on that, because I give them a quarterly email going, here's who I've met, here's who's called me in, it's like, so that they can go, okay, great, awesome. Like, help me help you. I'm helping them, so that when they submit me, they'll be like, Amber saw you back in June. I think she'd be great for this role. So it's like partnering up with your team, and I'm doing my part. And so anybody starting out, I'm a fan. I know a lot of people say I shouldn't have to pay to play. I understand that, but I don't know where else you're going to meet these people that are casting. I just don't.
That is great, because I know that the industry went through some trouble as far as in California, maybe, but I think that is great advice. So thank you. I'm going to look into that, because the casting people that I've met have been, through like Clubhouse, and I always thought that there was this big divide, but they just want to get their job done, and if you can make it
Yeah.
easier for them, that's
Yeah.
great. So there
Well,
is
and
not
the
a
thing
big divide.
is we talk about side hustles for actors. Casting directors aren't working 24/7. So if they can put a little extra pocket money in their, in their pocket and meet new actors for when their next project comes up, why not? It's just like I feel like the money is all kind of going around the same circle. Let me invest in you, you'll invest in me, we'll invest in this, and we'll just keep it going. So I think good for them for having a side hustle that still keeps them in the industry. Good for them for not having to go do a restaurant job that they don't want to do. It's just great. I support that.
And I think they're being very honest and forthright, because everyone knows that just because you pay for a casting workshop with casting directors, that doesn't mean, oh, they're going to hire me. So no,
Totally.
you're right. It gets you in front of them, and then now they're like, oh, you know what? Because again, they're not going to risk their reputation by just giving you a job because you paid
No,
to be in it when you can't
no,
bring it.
no.
They want to hire the best person for the job anyway, so that they look good as well. So
Yeah, and it's an educational time because what they do is they teach you about how their office works. Thing do's and don'ts, what they like in self-tapes, what they don't, how they like their slates. And like if you're taking notes, then when you get that audition and if it's not listed in the breakdown how they like it, you already know this is how they like their slates. And you don't have to go, hey, do you want a slate? Whatever. So it's educational on the industry, what's coming up. When they say, oh, I'm going to be doing this Marvel project, and you're like, ooh, a new Marvel's coming out. It's like it just kind of keeps you
yeah.
on the thread of the pulse of what's happening.
I would love it if you would give me a heads up next time you're going to do one, because maybe I'll join you in that, because I think that is such a brilliant, brilliant idea. And you're right.
Yeah,
You can be put on their radar. That's it.
yeah, yeah. It's like if they don't know you exist, then they don't know you exist.
That is it. Wow. Well, that is one great piece of advice and information, and I'm going to take that to heart, because I have thought about that. I just didn't realize how important I think maybe it was. So thank you.
Yeah.
What besides your podcast, is there anything else then that you can talk about that you have coming up, or that you'd like to
Sure.
promote?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I just shot, we're in post on a feature film called The Legend of Cat Claws Mountain. And that is a family friendly film, which is the film that brought Richie and I together in 2016. That was the first film we tried to get made. That film took 6 years to get made. Like, so for the listeners, things don't always happen overnight. It's like other projects get funded first. Like there's all kinds of reasons why things don't happen in the order that we think they're going to. But 6 years later, that film is in post, and that stars Dee Wallace, who played the mom in E.T. and Cujo. And then it's got Robert Davi from the Die Hard films and Goonies back in the day.
Mhm.
So it's just a fun, family-friendly film, and it's very Goonies-esque, which is super fun.
Oh, wonderful. It sounds so exciting. Well, anything that we can do to help promote it, or that I can do, whether it's social media or anything like that, I'd be, of course, more than happy to do that. And when is it slated for release? Because you could always come back and promote it if you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I think in a perfect world, Richie would love to have it out around Christmas. Realistically, will that happen? I don't know, but I know that that's like the goal is to get it out by like Christmas or, Thanksgiving, somewhere around the holidays. But yes, I will absolutely keep you posted as I know more.
Oh, amazing, amazing! I'm so happy and proud, to know you and see that these successful projects that have come about.
Yeah, yeah, super fun. When we did Weekend Warriors, the one that I mentioned, we shot that in North Carolina, and I played opposite Corbin Burnson, and I have been such a fan of his for so long, and to be able to work opposite him was so great. It was so much fun, and that was a great opportunity. So I feel very blessed to have had some of these, chances that I've had to work opposite some pretty cool people.
Amazing. Any
And
other
they're bringing
actors?
back LA Law, which is so
Are you kidding
cool.
me? Yeah,
Yeah,
Corbin. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, just an iconic actor, and I mean, yeah, from the '80s, '90s. I remember, of
heck
course.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so he's coming back for LA Law.
I love it. I love it. Any other actors that have stood out that you've worked with, that you were very excited to work with, and had a great experience with?
Yeah, well, I told this story yesterday, but I'll tell it again because I love it so much. I was cast in a very small role in A Wrinkle in Time. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to finally meet Oprah because she is like my dream gal, right? And so when I got my call sheet, I saw that we were working in Palos Verdes, no, San Pedro, and Oprah was shooting in New Zealand. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to meet Oprah. That's okay. It's still going to be great. I'm part of a Disney film. This is going to be wonderful. And then they had me working as a stand-in for Bellamy Young from Scandal, and she was really lovely. Like, she was just a lovely gal to work with. But the best part was when we were setting up her scenes, out from behind the camera came Ava DuVernay. And she was like, hi, baby, what's your name? And I was like, Amber. And she's like, hi, I'm Ava. She's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And the whole time I'm like, oh, I'm being directed by Ava DuVernay. It was like, that was, mind blowing. And then that led to a picture of me in People magazine. That's the first time I was featured in People magazine. And so I've got that, framed up on my wall. And that to me, it was just like one of the best experiences of my life so far.
Oh my goodness. When was this? How long ago was this?
That was 2016. And I remember it so vividly because it was during the Trump inauguration. And it was the day before he was elected. There was just so much energy, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? I remember I drove home, I went to sleep. My husband was out of town. And I remember I had like this horrible nightmare. It was just one of those vivid memories. I was just like, oh, what was that? And I woke up the next day. I didn't look at the news. I knew what the outcome of the election was by everybody on set. And I literally spent my morning just hugging strangers. It was just such a weird, so I'll never forget when that was, because it was like everything shifted that next day. And it was weird. It was a weird day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And you mentioned your husband. Is he an actor? Is he in the arts or what?
No. My husband is an electrical contractor. And when we did the film Underdog, he didn't co-wrote that with Richie. He had the idea for Underdog, based on just some life experience. And so then Richie wrote it. And he also helped fund it. He was very much, and then he was an extra in many of the scenes. He played at one point the boxing coach in the background. Like, he was, but he doesn't know. That's not like, he doesn't love the industry. In fact, because he is in an industry, like I talk about, like there's a ladder to climb and you get to a certain point where you make a certain amount of money and then you are like really set. And he sees how much I do for little sometimes, then sometimes it's a bigger paying job. And so he's like, I just don't get it. I don't get the desire, and I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to, but he loves that. I love it, but it's not his jam. It's not his cup of tea.
Wow. Okay. But I think the important thing is he's obviously very supportive
100%.
and what you do. So,
yeah.
And I've been running into, it's either people that are both actors and they're loving it and it's wonderful because they know each other's struggle, or someone like you where it's almost opposites, but it really works because there's this balance, this yin and yang. But that they know that, hey, some days you have to be away the whole day or for days at a time if you're on location, things like that.
Absolutely.
I love that there's that support. And I think I'd read somewhere that he kind of messed up your career, right? But you met him when you first got to LA. And I met him when I first got to LA. I had been here for 20 days maybe when I met him. Yeah. And it was more like timing. And so he has 4 children. So I married into 4 kids. My stepkids were 9 through 16 when we got together. They're now 27 through 34, and I've got 4 grandkids. So I have a humongous full family. But because I opted to help raise a family, being an actor, being a brand new actor that didn't know what she was doing and not making very much money, it was like I chose to go back to the hospitality industry where I could get a salaried position, where I could help support this family, so I could be a steady person instead of like this wishy-washy person after, their family had just gone through a divorce. It was, it was a lot. So I thought I want to be a consistent person, and acting where I was not having enough grounding underneath me, I was not consistent.
So being able to take classes, being in the hospitality industry, once I left, then they were like, okay, cool. I waited for my youngest to go to college. And once she went to college, I was like, okay, my turn. Let's do this.
Good for you. Good for you. And I'm sure that they appreciate it, or at least I certainly hope. I hope that.
My
Yeah,
husband my husband does. I can't speak for them, but I know my husband really appreciated the fact that I was willing to, sacrifice literally my 30s to, be a family person, so that when I hit my end 30s and my 40s, it was like gung ho, let's do this.
let's do this. Yeah, of course. And did you cut your hair for a role, or what was it for, or is there anything?
No, when I met my husband, my hair was super short, and he loved, the super short hair. As I ended up just growing it out just because I did. And then I ended up booking enough work where my whole library was me with longer hair, all my headshots, all my materials, everything was long hair. So I just kept long hair for a really long time, even though I wanted to cut it short. So I waited until I booked a couple jobs and in advance said, hey, I'm planning on cutting my hair, just so you know, so that I can start getting footage with me of short hair. So once I booked a couple projects, I was like, cut the hair. Now I'm gonna have some footage, I'll get new headshots, and like it won't be such a drastic thing. But it's so fun to see the difference in characters that I'm brought in for that are
Mhm.
so different from what I used to get brought in for. So it's super exciting to have that shift, because it's a whole different casting.
Amazing, amazing, wonderful. Yeah, it's a
How
great
about you? Like, because you had the fur going on for a while, and then you went
Yeah,
back to the, clean cut. I'm sure you got some interesting.
yeah. I was total caveman. It was my COVID look, because
Yep.
like 2 weeks into COVID, what was that? Back in March 2020, or is that when that happened? Yeah, I I was at home. I was shaving, and I couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck at home. My business was closed. It was in a casino, and couldn't do
Yeah.
anything. And I remember shaving, and I'm like, why am I shaving for what? So I was like, all right, I'm gonna let it go. And then all of a sudden, after I got past the itchy phase, then I just kept it, and then it just kept growing, and then we were back into quarantine. So I was like, all right, let's just see how long this goes. And my hair was the longest it's ever been for me,
Yeah.
and of course full beard, and but I was able to, I got some headshots that way.
Yep.
I So I can kind of use them, like here's a possible look. If you want me to go in that direction, I can do that
Yeah.
again, or
Yeah,
with
you definitely got some fun auditions through that. I remember, working with some auditions with you, and you got
right.
some fun roles and some fun shows. So it was
Yeah,
super. The opportunities were cool.
and thank you so much for being a reader for me, and I appreciate that you allow me to do the same for you. And I think that's great that it shows, actors, we have to help each other,
So
and it's,
true.
this is unpaid stuff, but it's part of the industry. Yeah, yeah, please, yeah, everyone, let's give Amber a round of applause, and thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
We appreciate everyone that's here. Thank you guys so much for spending some of your morning with us. Morning. I mean, if you're on the West Coast, if I'm in Vegas and Amber's in LA, and but yeah, I landed that to tell the truth. I did that with a full beard, and I did a pilot in Kentucky where
Uh
I
huh.
played a chaplain, or a crooked priest or chaplain who works at a 1-star rated old folks home. So that was
Nice.
that was fun. I steal all their shit basically. So
Yeah.
it was right up my.
That's amazing.
So
That's a
what
fun
what's
role.
next for Amber? And then you've been so gracious with your time. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and but I'd like to find out what's next. If there's something that you'd like to talk about, also we'll go to final thoughts. But maybe if you could share a little bit of your inspiration.
So sweet. That's so sweet. That's such a fun little thing. So yeah, as I mentioned, The Legend of Cat Claws Mountain is coming out. I'm in edit for my first book. I wrote a book called Alphabet of Wisdom. It's a dictionary of sorts, and that is in its editing process right now. So I hope to get that out by the end of this year. I started writing it in 2017, and it took me forever to dedicate the time of putting pen to paper or fingers to keys. But it's finished and it feels so good. And I'm working on my second one right now. So, so books are in the work, which fall under the, Actors Inspiration umbrella. So I'm super excited about that.
That's wonderful. Well, as soon as it's done, let me know so we can get it out there and push it a little bit. And I'm sure it'll be available on Amazon and wherever you
Correct.
can find books and things like that. And I'd love to have you come back and we can talk about that book and the writing process, because I think everyone has a story in them. Everyone has a book in them.
Yes.
So
Yes. It's so true. It's so true. What do they say? Don't die with the story still inside of you.
it's great. I love it. I love it. And what did you already record your podcast for the day? If you want to share.
Yeah, I did my podcast this morning. I usually record in the mornings. It's kind of like my morning ritual. I get up, I have a little cup of tea, feed my dogs, read a little bit, and then go into kind of like figure out what's coming to me as far as what might be of inspiration. A lot of times, if like nothing's coming to me, I have books upon books upon books where I can just get like a little inspiration. So I always say I'm no guru. I don't have all the answers. What I do is I share the information that's been given to me so freely. So let me just repeat to you what's been useful and helpful for me on my journey. Because like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I'll share with you what I've learned. So, because I'm a big reader.
What was today's, and I know that not to take listeners away from your podcast, but would you mind sharing what today's inspiration was, or maybe one of the ones that have stood out to you that you
Yeah,
might?
absolutely. So the episode today was called I See You. And it is taken from, I'm reading Viola Davis's biography right now, autobiography, and it's so beautiful. But she went to the Gambia, and while she was there, the way that people greet each other, when I say, "Hey, Paul, how are you?" and you say, "I'm good, Amber, how are you?" That's just kind of like the standard introduction. And the standard introduction in the Gambia is, hello, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? How's your family? My family's fine. And then they say, I'm here. And the person says, I see you. And I loved that so much. The fact that you walk into a room and someone says, I see you. Because how often do we feel invisible or unheard or any of that? But the fact that that is their absolute opening statement, she said, anywhere you go, they see you. And I just thought that was so beautiful.
That's wonderful. Yes, everyone. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
applause there. Wow, that is wonderful. So I love that you almost do this on a daily basis. So thank you. I think it's very inspirational, and I think everyone should check out. And it's called Actors Inspiration.
Correct. Yep. And you can find it on Spotify and, Apple Podcasts. And, it's just I love, thank you too for doing the content that you do, because there's enough to go around for all of us, and we can all switch it up and listen to different things and encourage each other on their journeys and promote each other's podcasts. It's like it's same with auditioning. Like if I have a friend that's in my same category and we both have the audition, we read for each other. I'm like, it's either yours or it's mine or it's theirs, but let's help each other get the best work out of it. It's like to throw away the competition. There are so many podcasts. Why not promote my friend's podcasts?
Well, I mean, you did a great job by helping me promote it by being on, because you are an inspiration, and I hope that others realize how lucky they are that they get to meet you and listen to you and follow you on your journey. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Paul. I appreciate that. And I hope to have you as a guest on my podcast very soon.
Thank you. Yes, I think you said May 30th. Now, I think that is
Yes. So we can discuss time and detail and all that stuff. But I would love to have you on mine, and we can just keep playing racquetball with our podcast.
I love it. I love racquetball. So let's do that. Well, wonderful. Where can people find you? Where can we follow you? If you'd like to give out your social media, that would be great. And then I can, I guess, give mine out as well. But yes, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to do so is on Instagram. I'm Amber Wegner 777. And I am an open book. If you ever have ideas on the podcast, if you have guests that you're like, oh my God, this person's great, I think you should talk to them, you can DM me. I'm very interactive with people. I love the community. So yeah, Amber Wegner 777 on Instagram is the best place to find me. Or Actors Inspiration. the podcast.
Yes, of course. So please, everyone, do me a favor and head over there. And again, it's very important, I think, to kind of go out of your way a little bit. And when you listen to a podcast, to give it that 5-star rating, if you deem it worthy, which I know that you will with Amber's. So and then give it a follow. And if you have a little bit of time, even leave even a 1-sentence review. I think that really helps those algorithms out there promote the podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts, which I'm sure yours is on, because if you're on Anchor, it distributes it to all the other ones. And I'm in the same boat. If you guys would do that for us, that would be wonderful. If you go to paulvato.com, that's where we can connect, or vato.tv. And that all leads to my bio link, which has all my social media. And I'm also somewhat of an open book.
With boundaries.
With boundaries. I try not to have any, but then I sometimes I'm like, I still have a business to run. So until that's done, I need to have a little bit of boundaries. So Amber, thank you so much for being here. And folks, thank you guys so much for joining us. And I look forward to doing your podcast, Amber.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Paul. This was really fun, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. I feel like I get a double play.
Yes, of course. And I feel like we can keep doing this back and forth, because you are such an inspiration. And I might just start listening to your podcast more often, and then just taking all your ideas and bringing them into mine.
Do it. That's what they say in acting. Borrow or steal from something somebody else does. If it works for you, go for it.
I love
and if it's all inspiring, that's just making the world a better place.
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Please, a massive round of applause for Amber. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
En ese hombre holding up the bottle. Look a little closer, cigar and Moscato. An actor in improv coming from Chicago. Outdoor, make way for Paul Vato.